This is factoring trinomials 2, and so I want to make sure that you look at some of these things. You're looking for a sum of B and a product of AC. You're going to break down the B term into two terms. That's the part that people seem to miss. They don't recognize that when we're looking at this, A is not 1. In the previous lesson, A was 1. So if we remember, here my trinomial is written in standard form. A is 7, B is 29, and C is 4. Previously, A was 1. So you don't have to take as many steps to get to the answer or the completely factored form as you do now. Check for a greatest common factor first. Some of these may be prime, which means you can't factor them. Okay, we talk about prime numbers, like 5. The only thing that multiplies to equal 5 is 1 times 5. Well, there are prime polynomials as well. We're going to factor by grouping. If you need to remind yourself a little bit how to do this, you can look up factoring using distributive property notes. And when we had groups of 4 and how we grouped them and factored those, that's the same thing we'll do here. Okay, so looking at number 1, I'm going to factor that. I have A, B, and C. I need to check to see if there's a greatest common factor. Is there anything that would multiply into 7, into 29, and to 4? And no, there's no number that multiplies into all of those. So I need a sum of B, which is 29, and a product of AC, which is 28. Because 7 times 4. Make sure you know that. That's where people will make the mistake. So I need numbers that multiply to equal 28 and add to equal 29. Okay? I know that those numbers are 28 and 1. 1 times 28 is 28. 1 plus 28 is 29. Here's where the mistake is, where it's missed. I'm going to break down the middle term into 2. So I've written this thing again, only instead of 29x, I have 28x and 1x. Well, it still adds to 29, but now I've split it this way. I've also put 28x first because I know 28 is divisible by 7. So I have a greatest common factor there. So now you factor by grouping those two groups. So I have 7x, x plus 4, plus 1, x plus 4. Remember to write your answer. 7x plus 1, x plus 4. Do not leave your answer like this. It should be written as two factors. There should not be a sum in there. It should be both in parentheses. Okay, let's look at number 2. So looking at number 2, I put a star by this one, and that's to remember that there is a greatest common factor here. I can see that 3 divides into all of these numbers. Okay, so A, B, C. 3 divides into all those numbers, so I'm going to factor out a 3 first. Okay, so now I've factored out all of these things, and now A is 1. So now I need things that multiply to equal 6 and add to equal 5. And I don't need to break it down like this. I can go straight to the answer because A is 1. Your greatest common factor just stays outside the parentheses. So what will multiply to equal 6 and add to equal 5? and it's 3 times 2. So 3 and 2 add to 5, 3 times 2 multiply to 6. My greatest common factor of 3, which I found, just stays outside the parentheses. Okay, number 3. Okay, so again, I'm looking at all this. I have looking for a greatest common factor. Does something divide into all of these? No. 17 is prime, so I have A, B, and C. I know that I'm going to break down this into 2 terms. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. You're going to break it down, you're going to factor it by grouping. So I need a sum of negative 17 and a product of 60. So make sure you know where that comes from. 3 times 20 is 60. Okay, so I have to figure out, okay, what can multiply to 60? I have 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10, and that's it. Can any of those add to 17? And here they can, 5 and 12. But they both need to be negatives because I need a negative 17. I know that's a minus. You have to understand that's a negative. So I'm going to use 5 and 12. And I'm going to put 12 here. I'm going to group it because 12 is divisible by 3 and 5, well, 20 is divisible by 5. So, negative 12x, negative 5x. So I've broken this down, it adds to negative 17, multiplies to positive 60. Now I can factor by grouping. 2 groups to factor. Greatest common factor is 3x, and it's x minus 4. So 3x, so I'm just double checking. Put a plus sign here. Greatest common factor here. Now be careful, it's going to be negative 5x minus 4. Now if you put a positive 5 here, you're going to see that you have negative x and positive 4. So sometimes you need to switch the sign of this number to make this set of parentheses look the same as this set. And then of course, write your answer in fully factored form. Okay, and I'll do one more just to show you, because this is one that also has a greatest common factor. So it should be pretty easy to see that this has a greatest common factor of 5. So I'm going to put 5, 2x squared minus 7x plus 6. So I've taken a 5 out. See, I've divided all of these numbers by 5 because I put the 5 out here. So now, here's A, here's B, here's C. I need a sum of negative 7, which is B, product of 2 times 6, which is 12. So I'm going to break down this middle term into 2 parts. Okay, so what multiplies to 12? 1 and 12, 2, 6, 3 and 4. So it looks like 3 and 4. They both need to be negatives because they need to add to a negative 7. I'm going to put the 4 here because 4 is divisible by 2. I'm going to put the 3 here. So minus 4x minus 3x. So double check. Negative 4, negative 3, it does add to negative 7. Then you can factor by grouping. So 2x, x minus 2, plus negative 3, x minus 2. Again, this is one where you might think that positive 3 is your greatest common factor, but you'll see that it doesn't work out inside the parentheses, so you have to change it. Just change it to a negative 1. Always watch for that. Okay, of course, 5 still stays out here. Write your answer, 2x plus negative 3, x minus 2. So you got to keep your greatest common factor outside. It was 5, and I'm going to write it outside my answer.